Let me repeat that. No major country has an automatic pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants. Some countries, including the United States, have periodic amnesty programs that are conditional in nature. Um, in addition to that, I think you have to keep in mind that this problem has exacerbated dramatically during the Biden administration. It's estimated that there were 10 million, 9 to 10 million of illegal immigrants that crossed the border and were released in the United States during the Biden administration. Um, uh, and I think people also don't recognize the fact that under current law, it's illegal to hire illegals. At the same point in time, that law is not enforced and obviously is an issue that has to be dealt with. There were actually a lot more people deported during the Clinton and Obama administrations than have been deported under Trump. Obama is known as the quote unquote deporter in chief. Um, and obviously, deportation needs to focus on the people that have been, guilty of the most serious crimes, whether they be in the United States or overseas. It doesn't make any difference. If you're guilty of a serious crime, whether it's here or elsewhere, you need to go and you need to be a priority if you regard. Now, let's look going forward. You talked about a plan. There is no plan, and there needs to be one. Now that we've secured the border, there's no excuse for not pursuing a comprehensive immigration plan. And that comprehensive immigration plan needs to be based on the needs of the economy. It also needs to separate temporary work permits from permanent legal status from citizenship. Those are three different categories that ought to have different criteria. All right. Citizenship should only be available to legal immigrants who meet certain criteria. In addition to that, and one exception to that, I would say, and that's the dreamers. Those are minors that came in with their parents. Their parents broke the law. The dreamers, were tag-alongs to the parents. So that's one possible exception to that rule. In addition to that, we need more temporary work permits where the employers can sponsor the individuals. And as long as they're employed and as long as they don't get in trouble, they ought to be able to stay here working for that employer. We need to have easier pathways to permanent legal status versus citizenship. They're fundamentally different. We need to crack down on hiring illegal immigrants, and we need to make sure that illegals are not eligible for federal welfare programs. Now, the states can do what they want. They're separate sovereign entities. If they want to end up providing benefits for illegals in their state, they can do that under the Constitution, but they should not be eligible for federal welfare programs, including Medicaid, among other things. In addition to that, I think something's got to be done about sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. The supremacy clause in the Constitution is very clear that immigration law and policy and enforcement is part of the federal government. States do not have the right to undercut that. We've seen some of the tragic consequences in Minneapolis when there's confrontations between the federal government and the state government, when state and local officials don't honor federal law and actually try to stoke, disruption and protests that can turn violent or tragic. That has to be dealt with and can be dealt with under our constitutional system. So those are just a few of my thoughts. Again, we need immigration. We want immigration, but our immigration policy needs to be based upon the realities of the 21st century, not the realities of the 19th century.
That I agree with. The thing is, the policies that we have are in the 1800s, but we have our own immigration policy here on Pod TV, and we're going to bring in tons of immigrants on this program David, so they may have different opinions. First of all, immigrating from Canada, actually, he's not going to come from Canada, but he lives in Canada, is Sasha Starr. He may have a different opinion on the United States. And of course, we can swing over to Bangladesh and bring in Dr. Sharif. And then, of course, we have our local Jatovi, who comes in from the United States of America. And they may have, of course, different and varied opinions when it comes to the immigration plan. But I hope at least they have a plan. So I'm going to start with Jatovi because we tend to disagree about everything and see what his immigration plan is because I like to have a plan. Jatovi, the floor is yours.
To start with, just to point out, yes, I completely agree that we need an immigration plan of today and not of prior years. Currently, the attacks that have been happening, because truthfully, sanctuary cities are honestly a policy that works today. Reason being, because we do have a lot of undocumented immigrants, so on and so forth. The purpose behind sanctuary cities, which is always mischaracterized, it's not a place of, hey, we're doing all this violence, because honestly, it has already been documented and well noted that immigrants have committed less crime than actually natural born citizens. It's just a fact. The reason sanctuary cities actually are a safe zone is because, or the reason that they are what they are, is because undocumented immigrants, when crime happens, one of the first things that they are afraid to do is actually call the police because of the way things are set up. Because the first thing that happens is they think they're going to be for calling in a crime, they believe that they are going to be escorted away and deported, which individuals who have been here for years upon years do not want that to happen. And that's why sanctuary cities exist, is because of the fact we tend to attack undocumented immigrants. We tend to demonize undocumented immigrants. And this is actually a safe zone where they are not being attacked, and they can actually call the police if there is a crime and they are not deported for doing so, which is a safe thing. It is a forward thinking plan. So that honestly should be something that we should purposely look for in the future, because I know, David, you pointed out the problems that happened in Minnesota. That problem was caused by old time thinking. That problem was caused by, hey, we're just going to grab all the brown people because we first create this false narrative that that the people of Somalia are actually stealing and robbing from people, which they never mentioned that they had already been prosecuting the individuals that were actually doing this stuff. But no, they attacked the Somali community, they demonized them, then they attacked immigrants, flooding in a ton of people, more immigration officers than they had police for the whole state. So that is a problem. So right now we don't have an immigration setup. So in terms of solutions and forward thinking, yes, we need to start going after the actual businesses that are doing a lot of this hiring, because there is yet to be any business that has faced any consequence. And the problem that we keep saying is that the undocumented workers, but they can't be workers if the businesses aren't hiring them. So we aren't actually doing anything on the business front. So we need actually legislation around the businesses that hire undocumented workers. We also need to work on that visa programs. So if you're going to hire these undocumented workers, we need to increase the visa program that is bringing in these undocumented workers, dealing with farmhands, dealing with those in the service industry where the majority of undocumented workers are. And then in the construction field, which the majority of undocumented workers are there. So we need more worker permits. We need more judges. We need more legal scholars, lawyers, and so on and so forth to handle these cases, because one of the biggest problems that we have is a backlog. Old-timey thinking, again, which is what this administration is doing, going after anybody brown and anybody who speaks Spanish. we need, they've actually gone into where people are going to their actually court appointed appointments, and they're being snatched away from there. That can't happen. If they're actually doing things the legal way, there needs to be a process for them to continue on down that path. And we need to focus on that. That brings in, again, judges, lawyers, and so on and so forth. So we need a comprehensive immigration plan. A lot of the
But
situations
we haven't had that
we
in
hadn't had
40
one
years.
in 30, 40 years. And that was back when Reagan actually did one. Anything else, we've tweaked around the corners and kicked the can down the road and demonized people and used it as a political football. Both sides have done that, but it's only gotten worse on the right side because it became this calling card, and a lot of the whole they're taking our jobs, they're taking our this, and that became Trump's political talking point for MAGA, and now it became a racist trope, which they have actually based that.
Let David respond. Let David respond.
So yes,
Well, first, we need to put the good point. There are problems with the crime statistics for the reason that you articulated. A vast majority of the states are not sanctuary states. A significant majority of the cities are not sanctuary cities. And therefore, there's a real question about the validity of crime statistics when you talk about crimes committed by illegals versus citizens, because of the exact reason that you articulated. There is a hesitancy of illegals to report crime in that circumstance. So I don't want to go too deep into that, okay? But there's a question there. Secondly, for the record, Somalis don't speak Spanish, okay? But and I know
I didn't say they did.
there's this big one-size-fits-all, that they're just going after the brown people or whatever. I think that's an overstatement. But
No, Dave, I have to stop you right there really quick.
Well,
The reason I wanted to point that out,
we need a plan. We do agree we need a plan, and we haven't had one since Reagan. Okay, we agree.
All right, I want to ask you about a different set of statistics. The revised BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, came out showing that in the last 8 months of 2025, the U.S. added only 12,000 jobs. And then we've got January 2026, and the administration was crowing about adding 130,000 jobs, which I would guess will get revised downward. And they're also saying some BS like, well, yeah, we weren't adding much jobs because of net job loss because of all the people we were deporting. So to me, the jobs market doesn't look great, and it looks like it's full of BS. What say you?
Well, there are several things going on. It is true that there's a lot of voluntary and involuntary deportations going on now. My understanding, and maybe you can check the numbers, Rick, there's as many as 2 million people who have voluntarily deported themselves, okay, under the program that's been done. I think there's about 400,000 people that have been involuntarily deported. I don't know what percentage of those people were employed, but, obviously some percentage of those people were employed. Secondly, you've got a circumstance where we now have a lot more automation in our economy than we used to have. It's only going to increase, not decrease. Furthermore, we've had significant reductions in federal employment. And that's those significant reductions in federal employment have also rippled over to government contractors who have laid off people as well. Some of the things that the administration talks about is, well, we've got all these trillions of dollars of investment that have been committed to the United States, either by domestic companies or by foreign entities or whatever else. And obviously, you got to build the factories before you can employ the people, although you do employ construction contractors and other people, which Jacoby touched on earlier. You do that. And the nature of our workforce is fundamentally different. I mean, we need not only an immigration plan, we need an overarching strategic human capital plan which includes not just education, but labor policy, education policy, tax policy, etc. Because the most valuable asset we have is our people, current and prospective, and we don't have that.
You asked me to look up voluntary self-deportation.
Yes, sir.
Department of Homeland Security claims 2.5 million people have done that, just sent themselves home. But experts, estimates by experts, say it's more like 210,000 to 405,000. Right. And only 100,000 people have taken advantage of, use the "We Send You Home" app, and we'll give you $1,000. And I think that may have been raised to $3,000. Only 100,000 people out of the supposed 2.5 million have taken that payment. So the DHS statistics are highly suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the right number is, Rick. I don't know. Okay.
The tough part is we cannot trust this administration. For example, one of the things that they talked about, or one of their big talking points, is they've saved over 3,000 children in Minnesota, which is a complete fallacy, because really the children that they have quote unquote saved, they were just updates to their updates to their information in the database that they have. So it wasn't that they've found or saved 3,000 children. They just reworded and tried to make it as if they did something, when it's, hey, this child is with this family that was given, that they were supposed to be with. That family moved to another location, so we updated their location.
Well, that's Jacoby, you know the old story about politicians. Okay.
Well, yeah.
And it doesn't make a difference whether they're a Democrat or Republican or anything else. You know how you have to be skeptical when their lips move.
Yeah, you definitely have to be skeptical. Hey, I did have a quick question to you, and I see that Nick is having fun with his toy and everything along those lines. But in that same regards, how much accountability can we actually give credit to, and what do you think? Because I know one of your big things that you're really big on is accountability, David, and along those lines. And I'm seeing that they were actually increasing the stipend for these folks. And I know that one of the restaurants that I go to regularly is run and managed by some folks that are from, I think, Honduras, if I remember correctly. And one of the young people were saying that they were thinking about taking that money and everything along those lines, but they were also thinking about coming back home to work. So they might take the money and run and then come back. So I don't know how much that might be going on as well, where people are getting the now $2,600 and maybe helping their family in whatever way they can, and then coming back. Because I don't know that there's any rule that says that you got to take the money, go back, self-deport, and then not be able to come back, particularly if you've already got family.
I think there's a rule, and Rick might can check on this because he's so adept at these things. I think there's a rule that if you take it and you come back, there are adverse consequences. Okay. Now the question is, what's the ability to enforce it? It is a lot tougher to get across the border now than it used to be. I mean, the border was next to open for about 4 years. Now it's virtually closed. And so that makes it, a lot more difficult for somebody to, take the money and then return. But again, that comes back to something I said earlier. Mm-hmm. We need three kinds of things done with regard to immigration. We need temporary work permits that are based upon the economic needs of the country, which includes things like construction, which includes things like agriculture, which includes things like seasonal activities that, for example, in the summertime, when there's a lot more lawn maintenance that has to be done and things of that nature. Secondly, we need a pathway to legal status, okay, which means long-term ability to stay here if you meet certain criteria, not just a temporary work permit. In addition to that, we need a pathway to citizenship, all right? But each of those should have higher bars. And in some circumstances, you ought to be able to go from one to the other, but they're separate paths. And right now, we have nothing.
So I looked it up. Yeah, if you take the payment and then you come back in, you're in big trouble. If they catch you. They also,
That's my point.
I don't think it's a viable business model to keep sneaking back over the border and taking multiple payments, because coyotes who get you over the border, they charge like 6 grams. You're losing money. And also, like, you need new ID so you can get paid as a new person. I assume they take the facial scan so that you're in the system. So it would be a whole thing. I don't think that many people are in the business.
But if they're voluntarily
Well,
deported,
one of the-
are they using coyotes? That's my question. Because
Oh.
I'm thinking they've got family over there and they're just voluntarily
They
going back to
are
their
doing
home.
a lot of facial.
As has been said, Rick, based on your numbers, you can't make it up with volume. You're losing money.
They are doing a lot of facial scans. So as I go through my passport control almost once a month, they have my facial scans down. Speaking about passport control, we're going to go to Bangladesh and see if we can get Dr. Sharif to come into the United States. He's been here before. See what his thoughts are about the immigration plan in the U.S., if any.
Professor Nick, thank you for your invitations. I love US people. Thank you. But fact is that I love my work. And there are a lot of things we can contribute in Bangladesh. You can contribute in South Asia. My World Talent Economic Forum growing very fast in this South Asian market. So that's why I think that this is good one. And secondly, according to my understanding, I'm not so much of expert like you, like this US expertise and other things. How I see this USA, because USA is a combination of different cultural people, lot of different countries peoples. Like if I see Bangladesh do not have so much of diversified people like USA, like California, or so it's look like for me it's a immigrant countries. But how I see this immigration process and other things, honestly speaking, through this process, USA losing a lot of talent. USA losing a lot of their global network and their business contributions. And this time, China basically invite all of the talented people in Asia, in their country. Look, if you see this AI industry and AI race, there is a race in between in China and USA. So right now, from Bangladesh or from South Asia, I'm observing most of the talented people, those who previously go or immigrant, even my family immigrant in USA, now they're shifting in China or in Japan. So this is very crucial moment for global economy, global politics, global leadership. I believe that because of economical challenges, US taking a lot of decisions. But this is very interesting for next 2 to 3 years, who take the global leadership. But honestly speaking, through these immigrations, through this tariff, through this all of the tensions, and previously USA leave many wire on many more things. I'm observing China is growing very fast, silently, peacefully, business strategy wise. They are right now the leaders of global economy. That is my observation. If I'm wrong, I can learn from you. Thank you.
Nick, let me jump in here, okay? I think it's important to understand that while the United States does not have a plan, China does. I think it's also important to understand that the United States and China are the two leaders with regard to AI, artificial intelligence. I would ask Rick if he can take a quick search, because I would be shocked if many Americans are moving to China to change their citizenship or their residency long term, because one thing you don't have in China that Americans value with their lives is freedom, and there is no freedom in China.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the number for you. 110,000 Americans live in China.
Right, but that doesn't mean they're seeking to be there permanently or be citizens of China.
No, though, I mean, there are, in specific instances, there are opportunities for Americans. Like a couple decades ago, I knew somebody who knew some American Asian, an Asian American moved to China and became China's Oprah. They were skilled at broadcasting and they got a TV deal, and but that's a very specific niche.
I think what Doc is pointing out is actually a great point, though.
I just want to add one point, please. This is very important. I think, Honorable David Walker, you have to know. Let's look in South Asia, right? We have a very good expertise, honestly speaking, in terms of STEM educations and other things. Indian peoples or this origin is very good. If you see last 5 or 7 years of educational transformations, you can find that through China Belt and Road Initiative, they are inviting all of the talented in Asia, not only Bangladesh, with free education, with full scholarship, with stipend, undergraduate, masters, PhD, last 5 to 7 years. Even if you see in Bangladesh, I know that China Belt and Road Initiative, they suck all of the talented people from Bangladesh, because if you studied in China, you will get free educations, you will get like scholarships or all of the financial support, infrastructure, and everything. On the other hand, I'm very honest with you.
Yeah,
it's my honest opinion.
Yeah.
In USA last year I visited. Even I find US own children, own people, they have full of tensions with their credit, educational loan, housing loan, all of the tensions. So when you have all of the tensions in hand or in your head, you cannot focus on creativities and other things and the innovations and all of the things. Try to understand how too much of money-oriented society lose everything. And second things.
All right, while he's frozen, let me say that the main job of Americans who move to China is English teacher, and you earn about 20 grand a year, which is enough because cost of living there is cheap, but it's not like a super exciting existence.
Well, let me jump in real quick, because I think what Doc is saying is actually just so spot on and profound. Yes, we can talk about, we have the freedom of this and freedom of that in the US and so on and so forth. But truthfully, are we really free? Because what Doc is pointing out is true, is that we really aren't. I mean, we are actually bound to the individuals that own us. From our, are you really free if you have sitting with $100,000 in student loans and student debt, can't get health care, can't pay for food, can't do this, but yet we have freedom is that really freedom? You don't have freedom of mobility in terms of your class freedom. And then the canary in the coal mine that I think that we forget about, sure, people aren't moving from the US to China. That's not really a big thing to really talk about. Other individuals are. Other countries really are, because what Doc again pointed out is that how China is actually rebuilding its image, rebuilding a lot of that educational market, so on and so forth, by opening its doors. China right now, and this is huge, and this is, in terms of the American automaker, we take pride in the cars of the U.S. Dave, I know you love cars, I do too. But right now, China is dominating the market. They just actually, in the EV market, hands down, China runs that market now. Tesla's not leading that area. Tesla is actually losing, not only because of Elon Musk's issues, but because they aren't doing anything technology-wise. If you look at the Chinese cars that they just actually, BYD runs the market right now. They're cheaply priced, but do the same exact thing Tesla does. If you look at Xiaomi, we kicked Xiaomi out of the US in terms of the cell phone market, but they've been still creating technology overseas for a long time. And they've actually entered into the car market. Xiaomi is now producing some amazing cars that are there. I mean, so in terms of that Chinese car market, they've just actually done a deal with Canada. So now with a deal with Canada, making China now the U.S. relies heavily on Canada and Mexico to make its cars. Now is China taking that market from us? Now we're stuck without having a partner now making the U.S. car. But now China's going to have that same ability. So that's going to bolster that Chinese market going back and forth. So we've got a problem. And I think Doc is actually right. We can yell about freedoms all we want to, but truthfully, are we free?
All right. Well, several things. One, you reinforce the point that I made, and that is Americans aren't going to China for a variety of reasons. Okay, for long term. And the ones that are going there, which Rick said, are really because of their English ability, if you will.
Right.
Secondly, I agree with Dr. Sharif that China's Belt and Road Initiative is a strategic plan, and it is a draw. And they have been trying to draw people from all parts of the world. They're a lot more successful with regard to Asia than they are from here for obvious reasons, okay? And their Belt and Road Initiative has economic, foreign policy, national security, and cultural dimensions. And those are the four dimensions that it takes to become and retain superpower status, if you will. One of the reasons that China is able to do as well as they do in certain areas like automobile manufacturing is because the cost of production in China is much less than it is in the United States, okay? In addition, their environmental standards are much less than in the United States, okay? And by the way, one of the reasons that people aren't buying as many EVs in the United States is because the $7,500 tax credit has been repealed, and furthermore, the requirement that you can't buy a fossil fuel burning car starting in some year in the future, I can't remember what year it is, has been repealed. Okay, so look, we have challenges. Okay, and Jacoby, you and the doctor are making a good point that how free can you be when you're burdened with debt? Okay, and when you're concerned, but guess what? The country is burdened with debt. Okay, and we're not doing anything about that either.
Maybe we should go to our friends in Canada.
One thing.
I'm talking about the global market.
We need to bring our friends in Canada.
Professor Dave, if you allow me, Professor Dave, like when you discuss about this China and USA things, this healthcare investment, this educational investment is very important, and you also discuss USA do not have long-term plan. How I see that, I think China is one of the top countries, those who are heavily investing in educations, in healthcare, and all of the things. Third, very honest opinion. Let's say today, when one few American people, I respect because I get a lot of support from American. I really like American cultures and your freedom of speech, and I respect you all. But suddenly they come, hey. I do not want to do this. Previously, they do conference. We 5 people, we decide we do not want to do conference with you. I say, okay, good. In Bangladesh and in South Asia, we have 10,000 healthcare startups. So I will do with them. Why I'm sharing this thing? It's not ego. The South Asia and Asia Pacific is so big. So much of opportunities. Even 10,000 American deny that, North American deny, hey, I will not work with South Asia. It's not matter right now. This is my honest opinion. I respect everyone because this market is so big and you can contribute a lot. That's why I welcome my American friend. Please come to our economy. Now you have your expertise, contribute there. So that's why I think the immigrations as well as this leadership approach, this talent development approach, I'm sorry to say USA has lot of talent, but somehow lack of long-term strategy, they make lot of mistakes.
A couple of things. I looked up, why is it called Belt and Road Initiative? And it's China has this thing called the Silk Belt Initiative, and it is developing land-based transportation routes from every other country who wants to sign on to China. And then the road part is maritime, ocean-based transportation. And because China wants to be the world's manufacturer. For Valentine's Day, I bought my wife 5 pair of high quality underpants from China, $9 for 5, postage included. China wants, and the whole Belt and Road is to make sure that China can more efficiently, get its stuff to the rest of the world. That's thing one. Thing two is, you mentioned human capital in America. And all last year, we talked about how our fertility rate is 1.62 when it needs to be 2.1. This year, it's down to 1.58. We're not making enough babies in America to replace our population. And by the 2040s, America's population, in immigration included, may start shrinking.
Well, Rick, by the way, China and Russia have a much bigger problem with regard to demographics than we do. Much bigger.
So, and is it really a problem? Because with AI, one person can do the job of 8 frickin' people.
Yeah, well, it's a big thing. Hey, David, just really quickly, because it just came out today and everything like that. Because I know that when Nikhil was a regular, and who knows how, maybe he'll come back. I know sometimes he is listening, and all along those lines, he talked about the Five Eyes Alliance. And apparently just today, China announced that they are going to allow visa-free entry to Britain and Sasha's area of Canada, which will leave the U.S. as the only one of the Five Eyes Alliance that doesn't have that visa-free entry. So they do look like they're going after not just the Asian countries, as Dr. Sharif is saying, but also the Western country as well. So I just wanted your take on that, because that was just actually in one of the Chinese publications that was announced earlier today. So this new policy takes effect on Tuesday and will remain in place until the end of the year, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry. And Tuesday also marked the start of the Lunar New Year of Spring Festivals, which is China's biggest annual celebration. But I just wanted your take on this, because it looks like they are going after some of the Western audience as well.
Well, there are some troubling trends that are going on right now with regard to alliances of countries that are not allied, not just the United States, but also the West. But there's also some troubling trends going on with regard to schisms within the West. And I'd have to, study that a little bit more to be able to speak more specifically.
But we do have a representative from Canada, so we'll see how our alliance is
Sasha
going.
may be able to
From
comment.
Canada, he may have some ideas. Sasha.
Well, there was a Munich peace conference just completed yesterday, and there are many interesting events taking place. Some of them are that it was publicly announced that European powers, Western European powers, will not longer share intelligence information with United States of America. They believe that intelligence community of US is now being essentially disseminated by Trump administration, and they are not to be trusted anymore. So that is done deal. Number two, all contracts about buying future ammunition, weapons for European countries absolutely exclude anything produced by United States, anything from planes to automobiles to just almost anything. So that's done deal. So essentially, Europeans are saying that the country that treats Russia as a friend and Europe as an enemy, we cannot deal with that issue. Any comments?
I haven't seen that, but obviously it would be a two-way street. That means that Europe wouldn't benefit from U.S. intelligence, which, quite frankly, is superior.
Doesn't Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't need it anymore because it's can be withheld anytime. Several cases happened in 2025. Now, Ukraine has been recognized as a cornerstone of European security, not United States. Ukraine, look at that. So Ukraine is now a major benefit of major help from European countries, and all this Trump's projects of $12 trillion Russian fund. It could be played out only of such an inept individual as Trump, who doesn't understand that the whole GDP of Russia is $2 trillion. So the $12 trillion fund is it's I even don't have words how to call it. It's a complete stupidity for someone to believe that some prospects of that are viable and built. So you see, the situation now is that Trump continues to play a game of getting Ukraine to surrender to Putin in exchange for $12 trillion. And no other country believes in that plan at all. American people don't believe in that plan.
I don't believe in that plan.
Nobody believes it.
Well, I can't say nobody, but nobody would mean Trump too.
Yeah, that's
True, true, good observation. Nobody except Trump. Okay,
That's true.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
David, I
One
want
thing.
to come back to something you said
One-
earlier, which was the students and all along those lines, because I was just reading earlier that I think foreign enrollment is down like by 17% or something like that, which is going to cost the U.S. something like in the billions. It won't be in the trillions, but it will be in the billions. So I just wanted your take on this in the sense that we are losing some very necessary talent and money when we are having a lot of these immigrants not coming to our universities. And a lot of them are coming on temporary visas with the plan to go back to their home country, whether it's some places that we're friendly with, like Bangladesh, or some place that is we're not friendly with, like Cuba or China. But I just wanted your take on this amount of money that we're losing.
Well, there's absolutely no question that there's been a reduction in the number of foreign students coming to U.S. universities. And in many cases, these foreign students are subsidized by their countries, where all or a substantial part of their tuition and room and board are paid for by the country. In addition, in many circumstances, if not most, they are paying a lot higher price than American students are to be able to get the same education. I think one of the things that you're going to see, and we're already starting to see signs of it, there's going to be a restructuring of the higher education system in the United States. There's a number of universities that are going to have to consolidate and or close because they've relied a lot on foreign students, if you will. We're starting to see this happen already. I think, look, the United States spends too much money on seniors and not enough money on young people. And that has to be one of the things that we have to reprioritize. We spend too much money on consumption and not enough money on investment. Okay, these are systemic structural problems that we have to come to grips with when we end up finally making the kinds of financial restructuring that's necessary. And in regard to education, as part of the human capital plan, we need to be subsidizing students that are taking degrees that we need from an economic standpoint, but we shouldn't necessarily be subsidizing people that are taking things that we don't necessarily need. It's not a one size fits all. Not all universities are equal. Not all degrees are equal. And we need to recognize that reality. Yeah.
Enrollment in U.S. universities and colleges has declined 15% between 2010 and 2022. And that's bad. But at places like Harvard, more than 50% of the students are in STEM, science, math, engineering. That's good.
That's good.
But boys are being left behind because people can't see that with AI, like grabbing jobs away from recent grads, people can't see the reason to go 200 grand into debt for a college education if it's not going to get them a well-paying job. So we're in trouble. And university enrollment is undergrad is 60-40 women. That is, there are 3 women for every 2 guys in universities. And so what happens to our it leaves like guys kind of being young idiots.
Well, yeah. Dr. Sharif has his hand
Yeah.
up.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable David Walker. Actually, this shows I heavily promote in my Bangladesh students, and I have students from 100 different countries, more than 10,000. I heavily promote it. Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, many more countries. Why I'm sharing these things, actually, I learn a lot from these sessions. So when you discuss about education, I really respect that how Honorable David Walker contributing for these things. And what I learn from you and what I execute in Bangladesh. You see that my World Talent Economic Forum, we take actions. We help politicians. We helps to develop their master plan, long-term plans. We help them to develop their educations, healthcare, city plan, and everything. And I'm happy to share. I'm very, very happy to share that 7 of our World Talent Economic Forum fellow, they win in the elections.
Oh,
Maybe
good.
they will be the next minister in Bangladesh. And you will be happy. All of them know Nick Balbeta, Pot TV, Honorable David Walker, everyone. And we promote it, how to build, why we need long-term plan. Okay, US is struggling in this point. Okay, let's do it in the politics. Why I'm sharing these things, actually, what I learned from your session, Honorable David Walker, we need more talent people in politics. American only struggle, the talent people, they are not involved in the politics, like Jatovi, like Rick, like Mark. Maybe they are extraordinary talent, but they are not contributing in politics. So whatever you discuss, economics, immigrations, if you do not have talent, if you do not have leaderships, everything will be problem. So I learned it from you. I want to give a special thanks, and I want to welcome you all in Bangladesh, how we taking the initiative and changing, you can observe. And definitely you get red carpet receptions. We learn from these sessions. We need this kind of discussions. We need this kind of dialogues around the world, that emerging economy can learn from Honorable David Walker. And Nick Balbeta, you are doing excellent jobs. You changed my life 7 years before. Now we are taking actions and getting all of the benefit. That's why America is the best in this world.
Well, Doctor, thank you very much for your kind comments.
That's why America is the best in this world.
Thank you, Doctor, for your kind comments. Let me just mention a few issues. One, when you think about what are the criteria to be able to run for elective office in the United States, there are only 3. You have to be a certain age, you have to live a certain place, and you have to be a citizen. All right. There's no other requirements other than those 3 things. Okay. At the beginning of our republic in 1789, we had way more than our fair share of leaders who were visionaries and who learned from history, who learned from others, and established our constitutional framework, which is not perfect, never will be. And that's one of the reasons why they say that we need to continuously try to form a more perfect union. That's why we have 27 amendments to the Constitution. We need more now, at least 3. Put our finances in order, term limits, campaign finance. We can argue that we need more, but we need at least those 3. Unfortunately, politics is not a merit and integrity-based endeavor. And as a result, some of the best and brightest don't want to pursue elective office because it is not a merit and integrity-based endeavor. And that's one of the reasons why historically I prefer appointive office, where there typically is some kind of merit and where I can control my own integrity, if you will. if you will. But thank you for your kind comments, and we got a ways to go.
Hey, David, along those same lines, we definitely have to get, and I think that's kind of what you're applying with the campaign financing, and that's both locally and statewide and nationally, the money out of politics. Because I know that even though we don't oftentimes talk about it and everything like that, that my mom ran for Secretary of State here in North Carolina, and that was the current Secretary of State, coming back to term limits, because she ran decades ago and everything like that, was the one that won the election, and that being Miss Marshall and everything like that. But the finances is something that folks don't realize how much it costs to run a campaign, particularly here in the United States. Even
That's why
costs a lot of
the
money.
job has gotten much crappier, because Citizens United made it that anybody running for office needs to have it's two jobs in one. It's the legislative and it's the fundraising, which is 6-7 hours a day, cold calling people and begging for money for your election funds and for the party. And there's that. There's also the division, where you've got two sides that have been brought to hate each other. There are fewer and fewer people in the middle, which means that your daily experience in office is going to be filled with more rancor and more lunatics, and that both those things chase a lot of potentially good people away. Like I'm not saying that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, would be the greatest politician in history, but he could unify people because he's got celebrity. But imagine a movie star, Schwarzenegger used to make noise about, and he actually took office. But imagine like a celebrity, who leaving their celebrity life to like be a senator or nobody would do that.
Well, Rick, because of Citizens United, it will take a constitutional amendment to deal with campaign finance. I'm an advisor to a group called America's Promise, which is seeking a constitutional amendment that would give federal, state, and local governments the power to regulate campaign finance. It wouldn't tell them exactly what to do, but it would give them the constitutional authority to do it. I might also note that there are some states that do provide for voluntary public financing for certain elected offices, one of which is Connecticut. Connecticut has voluntary public financing for state offices that you can take advantage of if you want. So, but ultimately, at least at the federal level, it will take a constitutional amendment, and I support that.
Okay, and with that, we're out of time, so we do want to thank our viewers in the United States and around the world, and we're going to be going to clips. So the people who are joining us on the media show, AI takes over this for about 5 minutes, and then we'll be starting the media show, because AI produces clips. It's just one of these things.
By the way, Nick, you can actually leave in the clip. You can leave and the clips will still go, because I've done it now.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you can start the media show, and I'm going to put the computer on.
But I'm just letting you know that you don't have to say in to wait for the clips to finish.
Okay. I'll try to get out. But Clips has done us a really good favor to increase our viewership about 40%. It's 40 to 400%. And we'll see you next time on Economics with the Honorable David M. Walker. Bye-bye.
Take care.